welcome everyone. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Welcome to our Sunday morning meditation class offered by the Insight Meditation Community Washington, IMCW, here in the DC area, and obviously including many people from farther away as well. And within IMCW, we have our Center for Mindful Living, which, we had a center in Northwest DC, but now we're mainly online. But CML, will share the different offerings, many Sangha-led offerings and meditations every day. So the class is offered by IMCW and the Center for Mindful Living. And I want to welcome everyone, a really warm welcome to everyone, and just invite you to feel really welcome, whoever you are, wherever you're from, and, all of our differences, and know that you can show up, as you are, and be welcomed here. That's certainly our intention, our aspiration. And if you're joining us for the first time, please feel free to put in the chat where you're joining us from, and we'd like to give you a particularly warm welcome, anyone new. And I hope everyone is doing well. We're living in some challenging times, and I think that these teachings and practices, certainly for me, have provided enormous support in kind of navigating all of the the difficulties, the challenges of life. What's going on in the country, what's going on in the world, what's going on in our own lives. And how do we hold all of that, and how do we respond wisely, compassionately, appropriately, so that we don't, so that we're not part of, just cycles of conflict and confusion and unconsciousness. That how do we bring kind of a wiser and kinder way of being into the world? I mean, certainly that's my aspiration for myself, and feel very grateful that we have these teachings, these ancient wisdom teachings that are, they're always being renewed, and always, the challenge for us is to meet the realities of our lives as wholeheartedly as we can. And so the meditation class, which I've been teaching on Sunday mornings going back to 2000, is an opportunity really to practice together, to meditate together, to share some of the teachings of the Dharma, teachings of awareness and of wisdom, compassion, and to be together in community, which is really a fundamental part of our practice is community. One of the three refuges, along with awakening and Dharma, the truth. So it's good that we're together today. Good to be with you. And just in terms of the format of the class, we begin with a meditation, 20 or so minutes. Helping us to arrive and settle and open to whatever is present in the body and the heart and the mind. And then we have a talk, and normally we have some mindful movement following the talk, or more recently before the talk. Emily has some obligations today, so she's not going to be leading the movement today. So I think we'll just do. We just have the meditation, the talk, and if there's time for sharing at the end, and and then some announcements. So again, welcome to everyone. Welcome if you're just joining us. So just a word or two before we go into the meditation, begin the meditation. The heart of our practice is really to meet ourselves where we are. We're often in the head of we're not liking where we are, or we're wanting things to be different. We're wanting things we don't have. We're wanting things we don't like to go away. And in many ways, we're often struggling with life. We're trying to make things different than they are. And really, at the heart of our practice is to really open to what's here, what's alive, and meet it without resistance, without trying to hold on to anything, without spacing out. Really taking refuge in life as it's unfolding. Doesn't mean we don't change things that we feel are appropriate to change, but even when we make change, if we can make changes from a place of acceptance rather than from a place of resistance, it's a whole different energy we bring to ourselves and to the world, to life. So we'll sit for, as I say, about 20 minutes, and just invite you to come into a posture that's comfortable for you. Sitting with your back straight, and just inviting the body to relax and be at ease. In a posture that you can be as comfortable as you can be for this period of time. If you like, you can let your eyes gently close and let your attention come inward. Let your hands rest in your lap or on your knees or on your thighs. And as a way of settling more fully into being here, you might take just a few longer, deeper breaths. It's a nice, full, deep in-breath, filling the lungs, filling the chest. And then releasing, long, slow out-breath. Letting your breathing and your awareness of your breathing help you to settle and be here. Breathing in, calming the body. Breathing out, calming the mind. You might take a moment or two to reflect on gratitude, on something or some things in your life that you feel grateful for. And just letting your attention go to really whatever comes up for you. Maybe loved ones, friends, family. Maybe conditions of life, health, security. There's things that you can appreciate, that are given to you. Maybe the beauty of nature, trees, the birds, the flowers, the animals, the sun and the moon, just all of this that we didn't have to do anything to earn, but just is freely given to us. Just if you can, just take in any appreciation, any gratitude. Maybe your spiritual practice, teachings and practices that help you to be present, to keep your heart open. Gratitude really is a way of gladdening the heart and the mind. We often focus on things that are wrong or what we lack. Forget about all that we have. And letting yourself feel whatever comes up, any feelings, maybe of warmth, excuse me, connection. There's another way of gladdening the heart. You might invite a smile or a half smile to your face, particularly to the corners of your eyes, the corners of your mouth. Maybe letting the smile come down into your body, into your heart. And letting your heart be open to whatever is present for you right now. You might just bring awareness to your body and just notice what's here. Whatever bodily feelings are present, if you can just let them come, let them be, let them go when they're ready to go. So whatever's here, making space for what's present. I notice whatever mood or emotions might be present right now. Might be some lightness or some heaviness, some sadness or some joy. If you can just allow yourself to feel whatever is present right now. Just meeting whatever's here without controlling it or changing it. Just letting everything come and go. You might notice or just bring awareness to just a awareness that knows all these different experiences, bodily feelings, emotions, thoughts, but isn't actually caught up in them. It's an awareness, a consciousness. You can kind of step back into that awareness. There's this knowing quality that's always here. And you rest in this awareness. And just watch, observe whatever's coming up in the body, the mind, the heart. Can you connect with a peace that's underneath all of the different experiences, as here, even when there might be some turmoil or agitation, can experience that peace, joy, ease. Peace is this moment without judgment, this moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. Dorothy Hunt. Meeting whatever is present right now for you with kindness and with acceptance. In this moment, be just as it is. You meet it wholeheartedly, without resistance or judgment or clinging. Just letting everything come, letting it be, and letting it go. This is from Spanish poet Antonio Machado Walker. Walker, your footsteps are the road and nothing more. Walker, there is no road. The road is made by walking. Walking, you make the road, and turning to look behind, you see the path you never again will step upon. Walker, there is no road, only foam trails on the sea. Take your time coming back, opening your eyes if they're closed. Welcome to anyone who joined us during the meditation. Welcome, everyone. Excuse me. So, Roger, you asked, where can we find recordings of this, excuse me, this session and previous ones? The recordings, the talks and the sessions are shared online. I think it's Tuesday evenings, and they are available. I have to check where the link for them, but I think you can Google them. But I can probably find out that information. I know they're available. Thank you, Roger. So, what I'd like to talk about today is the theme is truth and honesty on the path of awakening. And thank you, Karen, on the IMCW website. When we think about telling the truth or being truthful in terms of the Buddhist teachings, we often think about right speech, only saying what's true and what's helpful and what's kind, and avoiding unkind speech and harsh speech and gossip and obviously false speech. But in a way, in many ways, I think honesty and truth towards ourselves is what's really fundamental, and whether we're being truthful in terms of our own lives, in terms of our relationship with our own experience, I think is less focused on, at least in the formal teachings in Buddhism. And it's what I want to kind of look at, explore today. Thank you for sharing those, Dan, on that. And over recent sessions, what I've been doing is I've been looking at exploring the Buddha's teachings of awakening, the Buddha's path, the Four Noble Truths about suffering and the end of suffering. And, looking at the Buddha's teachings as mainly a gradual path where we train the heart and the mind, that we train, we cultivate. What the Buddha said, we abandon what's unskillful and we cultivate the good. We abandon, greed and clinging and hatred and, unconsciousness. We let go of things that don't serve us, mind states that don't help us. And we cultivate those that are beneficial, compassion, loving kindness, equanimity, mindfulness, concentration, all of these qualities that actually serve us, that serve happiness, that serve awakening, that help us to wake up, help us to live more wisely, more skillfully, more kindly in the world. So I've been looking at the Buddha's teachings, but also looking at teachings of contemporary spiritual teachers. Some of them you may be more familiar with, some may be somewhat less so, but mainly I've been focusing on the teachings of Eckhart Tolle, probably most people familiar with him and The Power of Now and his other works. Emphasizing the power of coming into the present moment and living fully in the present, the power of that and how that is freeing for us. Also, the teachings of Adyashanti, very, very powerful teachings that, like Eckhart Tolle's, come from his own, Adyashanti's own awakening, which he speaks about, different experiences of letting go and of deep realizations, deep spiritual realizations, and really teaching from that place. Also, another teacher, Gangaji, who similarly kind of had a experience of awakening with a teacher in India, and it teaches, I think, in a very very original and powerful and authentic way. And what I've been wanting to do is kind of look at these teachings, because they're often seen as, a kind of a different path. There's the Buddhist path over here, and there's these contemporary teachings of awakening, which are not, these teachers, although they may have experienced Buddhist practice, they don't see themselves, view themselves, call themselves Buddhist teachers. But there's a great deal that they have in common with the Buddhist teachings. And what I've experienced in my own practice over the last 30 plus years is that the heart of my practice, the part of my, the kind of the bedrock has been the Buddha's path, the Buddha's path of awakening, and how, that provides a very trustworthy path to live more freely and compassionately and wisely in the world. And at the same time, over the years, I've also been very drawn to these teachings of Eckhart and of Adyashanti, Gangaji, and other teachers as well, but particularly these teachers. And what I've come to see and experience in my own practice is that these teachings and the Buddha's teachings can really be very, very complementary. In some ways they're quite different in that, the Buddha's path is, broadly it's a path of training. You train the mind and the heart. You cultivate these qualities. You cultivate, the Brahma Viharas, the loving kindness, the divine, the heart practices, the loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity. You cultivate the factors of enlightenment, 7 enlightenment factors, these qualities that when you really develop them and deepen, they actually lead to awakening. The Buddha has a kind of a metaphor or whatever, simile probably. He says, just like, the river inclines towards the ocean, kind of moves towards the ocean or towards the sea. So these awakening factors incline towards liberation. Then the more you cultivate them, the more you cultivate mindfulness and investigation, effort, joy, concentration, tranquility, equanimity. Another one of the Buddha's lists, but a very, very powerful, training to awaken. The more you kind of move inexorably towards freedom, and it's very, very much a path. Broadly, it's a very, very much a path of training. Of kind of moving along a path. It's kind of, we're here and we want to get to there. So it's, a gradual moving, a training, of opening the heart and the mind. These contemporary teachers that I've mentioned, their approach really is quite different in a way, because what they're saying, and I put them under the kind of the heading of already free. That is, that they're kind of saying, rather than seeing the path as like having to go move along and train and do this, and then awakening comes. They say they actually point to the way in which freedom is our true nature. We're already free. There's nothing. It's not a training, that we need to do this and then do this and do this. We just need to, in a way, kind of get out of our own way. We just need to step into, just the awareness that freedom and peace, joy, are our true nature, and this is what's already here. Adyashanti speaks about the freedom that's already and always and already present for us. So it does really contrast in some ways with the Buddha's teachings of like, well, if we're already free, there's nothing we really need to do. And yet, you could say there is a problem because we don't really realize it. We may be, the freedom may be our true nature, but if we don't, as one Zen teacher said, fat lot of good it does you if you don't realize it. There has to be the realization. So what helps us to realize it? And one of the Gangaji, when she talks about her teacher Punja, she comes and says, what do I have to do to be free, to be free of suffering? And basically he said, just stop, basically stop creating the stories and the, everything in the mind that kind of gets in the way, that gets us caught up in, attachment and clinging, etc. And just stop and realize what's already here. So that's one very powerful way of kind of realizing. Really realizing our true nature, really awakening to who we truly are and what we truly are. So in that way, that you can contrast these teachings with the teachings of the Buddha, but at the same time they have a great deal in common, because they're pointing where the teachings lead to is, essentially to the same understanding of freedom, that it's the letting go, it's the awakening to the truth of life, that that whether you see it as realizing or attaining freedom, or realizing that this is who we already are, then it's a way of living and being in the world that is, fundamentally different than the way we tend to live, and the way billions of people live in the world. Caught up in entanglements, caught up in suffering, caught up in conflict and wanting and needing and division and all of this, that we can realize the deepest truth of and live in freedom. We can, in the Buddha's terms, we can end suffering in our lives and live completely free of suffering. We'll still get sick, we'll get old, we'll die, all of that. That's part of life. But our relationship to our experience is fundamentally different. Maybe some of us, we're all getting older, aren't we? But for a lot of people, aging and not the potential for dying, but the reality of death can be a challenge. It can be like, I don't want this. I want to be 25 all my life, or whatever it is. I want to. No, I don't want this to happen. But the truth is, it's going to happen. It is happening all the time, and there's a fundamental difference between being at ease and in a relationship to that it's not a problem. I don't know if for you, particularly, as my friend, colleague Regina sometimes says, those of us in the late afternoon of our lives. So I love that expression. We've had a few decades. How do we relate to getting older and kind of moving into the later years of our life? Is that something we do with a sense of ease, of like, yeah, this is life, and just deal with it as from a place of some level of equanimity and peace? Or are we somewhat in a struggle with it? This should be different. I don't like this. I want it to be different. I want to be younger and more beautiful, or more whatever it is. Are we in a struggle? So in a way, what these teachings are all about, ending the struggle with life. Of wanting it to be the way we want it to be. So. The theme I'm really interested in exploring today is truth. Alignment with truth. The role of truth on the path of awakening. Yeah, the role of being true to ourselves, true, living authentically. On the path of awakening, on look at the Buddha's teachings and these contemporary teachings, and what they can point to that may be helpful for us in our lives. It's interesting and not coincidental that the central Buddhist teaching is called the Four Noble Truths. These when the Buddha teaches the truths about suffering and the end of suffering, that we experience suffering, and our work really is to recognize and acknowledge when it's present, and to see our own role in that, in our suffering. That clinging leads to suffering. When we try and kind of make the world be the way we want it to be. We cling to this should be like this, or these people should be different. And we get into this to clinging, then we suffer. And that's the second noble truth. And if we're able to see our own relationship to our suffering, that our clinging, our wanting things to be the way we want them to be, leads us to suffering, then we can see that a letting go of that clinging can lead to a letting go of suffering. That's the kind of like the heart of the Buddha's teachings, that when we cling, we suffer. And when we let go of clinging, we let go of suffering. And so to understand these truths, and the fourth of the third one is the letting go, that awakening, that freedom comes from letting go completely, letting go of that, fighting with life, struggling with life, wanting things to be the way we want them to be. And the Buddha then taught this path of training, the eightfold path of training that leads to the end of suffering. And the Buddha taught these as the most important truths or understanding, because when you realize them, when you really understand and experience these Four Noble Truths, you live life in a completely different way. Life ceases to be a problem that we need to solve, and that, in a sense, it dissolves all problems, because, rather than a problem is always like this, in some way this is unwanted, I want to change it. But, the truth is that, it's many of these teachers say, that there aren't really problems, there are only situations. And to turn something into a problem, it's like, this needs to be different. But rather than that, it's like, this is how life is unfolding right now. Can I be at peace with life as it is right now? So when these Four Noble Truths are really liberating truths. They're truths that free us because they allow us to live in the world in a different way. For these contemporary teachers that I'm speaking about, Eckhart Tolle, Adyashanti, Gangaji, really they would articulate that truth in a different way, a somewhat different way. They would perhaps say something like, the deepest truth is that freedom is our true nature, is who we already are. And our task really is to realize this, to recognize that we're already free. When we realize it, when we come to see that, then we can live. That is awakening, just kind of seeing our true nature, seeing that we're already free, taking what's sometimes called, the backward step, coming into just this awareness of underneath all that's happening, all the ups and downs and the challenges, the struggles, the entanglements. We can come back to this kind of bedrock of the freedom of who we already are, the deep peace that is always here, always present, already here. So for both the Buddha's teachings and these contemporary teachings, the end of the deepest truth is to realize the freedom. That's what the Buddhists might call that. That is our Buddha nature, that potential we have to be free. These contemporary teachers, like already free teachers, would say these realizing the truth of who we already are. Yeah. And what both of these kind of broad approaches have in common is that the way to truth comes through living in truth. You might have heard the expression, maybe you've seen it on a bumper sticker, that there's no way to peace. Peace is the way. You familiar with that? No way to peace. Peace is the way. You know, to really say that peace isn't somewhere we kind of have to get through. We have to engage in all these wars to, for example, to get to peace. You know, peace isn't something. Peace is something we need to live and embody. And we could say in the same way that there's no way to truth. Truth is the way. Truth is the way that it's through, another way of saying it is, it's through living in truth that we realize the deepest truth. That by meeting our experience wholeheartedly, saying yes to what is, moment to moment in our life, it's that, you know, in Buddhist language, it's taking refuge in the Dharma, taking refuge in the truth. The truth right now is what's present for us in our lives. You know, what am I aware of right now? What am I experiencing? And to say yes to what we're experiencing is, if you like, the doorway to the deepest freedom. So we, you know, it's you've heard this many, many times, you know, in this class and other classes that you know, the practice, you know, the heart of the practice is to turn towards our experience and to say yes to what is. You know, to meet what's here with acceptance, with kindness, without judging or clinging or resisting, but just allowing life to be life, letting life be life. You know, the expression, the saying from the Jesuit writer and philosopher, spiritual teacher, Anthony de Mello. You know, he spoke about enlightenment as absolute cooperation with the inevitable. Absolute cooperation with the inevitable. Basically, it's, you know, what is here, what we're experiencing is unavoidable. It's what's here. So to cooperate with what's here, to not resist life, to not resist what's here, is freedom. And it's a pathway, if you like, to the deepest freedom. So what we're doing and what we're cultivating, what we're practicing is this willingness to meet life as it's unfolding, you know, to respond wisely, compassionately. Not passively. It's not saying, okay, this is how it is and whatever, you know, I just got to be with this. It's much more of a dynamic relationship to, it's like, okay, sometimes we need to change things. Sometimes we need to step away from situations that are harmful or inappropriate or whatever. And that's wise. But whatever we do, whatever action we take, it serves us to take that action from a place of acceptance, of meeting this moment wholeheartedly, meeting it as it is. So for the, you know, in the Buddhist teachings, taking refuge in the truth is meeting our experience, you know, is really the path of mindfulness. The Buddha spoke about mindfulness as the direct path to liberation. whatever we're experiencing, whether it's in the body, the mind, the heart, the feelings, if we turn towards it and open to it, then what gets revealed is deeper insights into life, that everything is changing, that nothing can be held on to, that nothing is really me or mine. It's all impermanent. It can't be held on to. And when we realize that, we actually come into a different relationship with life. It's a very different experience to recognize that things change, and that even though something, that maybe I didn't want to happened, that this is part of life, that this is part of the changing life as it is, the impermanence of life. Very different from like, this shouldn't have happened, I don't like this, I don't want it to be like this. And we cling to it being different than it is. And in the first case, there's freedom, because we're kind of dancing with life. We're meeting life as it is. We're, in a fluid relationship to it. In the second case, in the latter case, we're in a struggle with life. And when we struggle with life, then we're going to suffer, because life will be life. And our wanting it to be the way we want it to be will not change things. Maybe sometimes we can do things. Yeah, we can have an impact on things. But basically, wanting things to be different than they are is a remedy for suffering. So some quotes from these contemporary teachers, Eckhart Tolle, it speaks about how the path to freedom comes through willingness to be with our experience here and now. The power of now is to open to our experience, to be present with what is. And he says you can always cope with the present moment, but you can't cope with something that's only a mind projection. You can't cope with the future. So the only task we always have, is to meet this moment wholeheartedly. When 10 minutes late, something happening in half an hour, then our task will be to meet that wholeheartedly, but not to meet that moment now. What was it? Jesus said, have no thought for the morrow, because things of tomorrow will take care of tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll take care of tomorrow. Our task really is to take care of this moment, to meet this moment wholeheartedly. So all of these teachings, really what I'm getting at is all of these teachings really come back to, how am I meeting this moment? How am I meeting my experience here and now? This is from Gangaji. In the instant of simply opening to your experience, you experience that whatever you were struggling with is no longer there. Just by opening to your experience, whatever you're struggling with is no longer there. True openness reveals that the struggle, the problem, the bogeyman, the demon, the wound, is actually non-existent. The only thing that holds the story in place is the resistance to opening. So when we make something into a problem, when we're tangled, what we need to do is shine the light of awareness on it. And then it actually reveals that there really isn't any there. That the entanglement has only come from our clinging. So, for example, we get angry with somebody, we're really annoyed, we're caught up in that anger. But if we shine the spotlight of awareness on that anger, and we open fully to it, we actually see that, that there isn't anything there. What gives it its solidity is our clinging to, they shouldn't have done this, they're bad, they're wrong, or I'm wrong, or whatever. It's the clinging that actually gives it its solidity. The way Eckhart Tolle puts it is, he said, anything unconscious dissolves in the light of consciousness. When you shine the light of awareness on anything unconscious, it dissolves. You see that it's only the confusion that gives it, gives it solidity, gives it life, gives it, kind of makes it real or makes it solid. So turning towards our experience. So meeting this experience in truth. This is how Adyashanti put it. He says, the key to awakening is sincerity. It's the willingness to meet sincerely and honestly what's happening in our body and mind. That is always the doorway to freedom. A freedom that only happens now, and now, and now, and now. So turning honestly, truthfully towards our experience is always the doorway to freedom. He goes on to say, what would it be like if we didn't avoid anything we knew to be true? What if we came out of hiding in all areas of our life? I think I invite maybe just a reflection right now of, I mentioned at the beginning how we often think about truth as like what we say to others and whether we tell things, as they're, as they really are, or we deceive or we lie. But what is really even more fundamental is truth, living in truth and being truthful in terms of ourselves and our own lives. What Shakespeare in the Hamlet, Polonius says, this above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. That being true to ourselves is really the foundation of living truly, living in integrity, living honestly. And I think, maybe just invite a reflection on, just some questions. How, you might close your eyes if you want to on this, just how truly and authentically am I living my life? You might ask yourself. Am I living in truth? Am I hiding or denying parts of myself, maybe from myself or from others? Is there any division within me that I'm kind of keeping something hidden away, or am I hiding or denying parts of myself? Am I holding back or repressing what I feel or believe or know to be true for fear of how others might react or think? There's areas where you feel maybe some sense of division or not fully living in truth. Am I bringing into consciousness, into awareness, all parts of myself and my life? Am I looking for happiness where it can't really be found? And if there are ways in which we're not living fully in the truth, what impact does that have on our happiness and on our freedom? So whatever comes up, meet whatever's here with, if anything that arises, with kindness, without judgment, with acceptance, just noticing, is it telling me something? So coming back, if you like, and just sharing some reflections from Adyashanti on this question of living in truth, living truthfully, living authentically in terms of what we know to be true. He says, what would it be like if we didn't avoid anything we knew to be true? What if we came out of hiding in all areas of our life? What if we completely stopped avoiding ourselves? Because that literally is the awakened life. He goes on, I found most people have a fear of being truthful, of really being honest, not only with others, but with themselves as well. When we tell the total truth, our inside is suddenly on the outside. There's nothing hidden anymore. He says enlightenment is, in the end, is about truth. It's about being truthful in all aspects, at all levels of our being. And he goes on, if you avoid those aspects of your life that are not in harmony, those where you may still be in denial, that kind of avoidance is going to hinder your spiritual awakening. To be anything less than real, to be in avoidance of anything at all, diminishes our experience of who we are. To be less than truthful with the people and situations in your life is to withhold the expression of who you are. In the end, we must come to see that truth itself is the highest good. The truth itself is the greatest expression and manifestation of love. You can't have truth without love, and you can't have love without truth. So just in the last couple of minutes of this talk, just invite you again to just turn inward. I'd ask yourself, is anything calling for attention? Anything calling to be brought into the light? Bring truth to, any area of your life that maybe you're avoiding or keeping kind of pushed away. Anything in relationships with people that you're holding back. We come to the deepest truth of freedom, freedom from suffering. Come into a relationship with life where the problems really have dissolved. We come to that through the willingness to be with our experience as it is, to open honestly to what's here, what's alive, what's present right now. And to not push it away, not resist it, not deny it, not avoid it. And if difficulties come up, we can make the difficulties into the path. Make the obstacle into the path is how they say it in Zen. Something that feels like a challenge. That's really the invitation to waking up. What do I need to see here? What do I need to look at, to explore, to investigate that I'm not yet seeing clearly? So truth, opening to truth here and now, taking refuge in the truth, is the doorway to the deepest truth, to the freedom that is our true nature, is our Buddha nature, is who we truly are. So we'll leave it there. Maybe invite anything that comes up for you. If you want to share in the chat, we'll what's alive for you right now. Just sharing, meditating together and just listening to these reflections on truth and living in truth. And if any questions anyone has, anything anyone would like to share, and maybe invite folks that haven't spoken recently in recent sessions, or anyone who feels like you have something something you'd like to share, or a question you have right now. Thank you, Heather. Let's have a few quiet meditative moments together, and we'll have some announcements and finish up today. I take a deeper breath or two and just settle into being here, being present, and open to what's here right now. Meeting this moment with kindness and with acceptance. Nothing that's here in any moment needs to be different. It just needs to be met wholeheartedly with kindness and with acceptance. You might, as you breathe in, just send yourself a wish of kindness and compassion whatever you're experiencing right now. Just wishing yourself peace, kindness. And as you breathe out, maybe breathe out a wish of kindness to all of us here together, all of us here in community, recognizing that now everyone is dealing with their challenges and their difficulties. Just sending out kindness, compassion to everyone here. May you be happy, may you be safe, may you be free of suffering. Breathing in kindness to yourself. Letting your wishes of kindness go out into the world. There's so much conflict, so much suffering in the world, so much division. And just wishing, sending out peace, compassion, equanimity out into the world, out to all beings everywhere. May you be happy, may you be safe, may you be peaceful. May you live with ease and with kindness. This is from Wu Men. 10,000 flowers in spring, the moon in autumn, a cool breeze in summer, snow in winter. If your mind isn't clouded by unnecessary things, this is the best season of your life. If your mind isn't clouded by unnecessary things, this is the best season of your life. So